Rachel Moreno stood outside the glass tower of Thorne Industries, her heart hammering against her ribs. She was 23 minutes late. Her phone had died overnight. Her alarm never went off. The subway had stalled between stations for 15 agonizing minutes. Now, clutching a coffee-stained resume and wearing a blazer that didn't quite match her skirt, she pushed through the revolving door with more force than necessary. The lobby was all marble and chrome, the kind of place where even the air felt expensive. A blonde woman at the reception desk looked up from her computer screen, her perfectly shaped eyebrows rising in surprise. "Good morning," Rachel said, trying to sound confident despite the chaos she felt inside. "I'm Rachel Moreno. I have an interview for the executive assistant position at 10 o'clock. I know I'm late, but the subway stopped, my phone died, and I spilled coffee on my resume in the taxi. But it's still readable, mostly." The receptionist, whose nameplate read Dana Price, stared at her as if she were watching a car crash in slow motion. "Mr. Thorne doesn't tolerate lateness," she said carefully. "He's already dismissed 2 candidates this morning for being 5 minutes late." Rachel felt her stomach drop. Well, that's encouraging. Should I just leave now? Or wait for him to tell me to leave in person? Dana hesitated, then pressed a button on her phone. "Mr. Thorne, the final candidate has arrived." She paused, listening. "Yes, sir. I'll send her up." Rachel smoothed down her blazer and headed toward the elevator. As the doors closed, she caught her reflection in the polished steel and winced. Her dark hair had escaped its bun, and there was definitely a coffee stain on her collar she hadn't noticed before. The elevator opened on the 32nd floor to reveal an office space that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Floor 2 ceiling windows overlooked the city, and everything was pristine white and gray. Behind a massive desk sat Benjamin Thorne. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 35, with sharp features and eyes the color of steel. His navy suit looked like it had cost more than her monthly rent, and his dark hair was styled with mathematical precision. When he looked up at her, his expression was completely neutral, which somehow felt worse than anger. "You're late," he said. His voice was deep and completely devoid of warmth. "I am," Rachel admitted, walking toward his desk. 23 minutes late, to be exact. The subway had a mechanical failure, which I realize isn't an excuse you'd probably accept, and I spilled coffee on my resume, which is unfortunate because it was actually a good resume before it became abstract art. Benjamin stared at her. "Most people would apologize profusely and make excuses. I could do that if you'd like, but you seem like someone who values efficiency over performance apologies." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Your resume says you left college in your 3rd year." "I did. My mom got sick, and I needed to work full-time. Student loans and medical bills don't pay themselves. Well, executive assistant experience, not officially. But I've managed 3 different offices, kept 2 CEOs organized who couldn't find their own calendars, and once talked a client out of canceling a $1 million contract by explaining why their concerns were valid and then solving every single one of them." "That's not on your resume." "The coffee stain is covering that section." For the first time, something flickered in Benjamin Thorne's expression. It might have been amusement, but it disappeared so quickly Rachel couldn't be sure. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that made her want to squirm. "The previous assistant lasted 3 weeks," he said. "Before that, 2 weeks? Before that, 1 week and 4 days. Do you know why? Because you're difficult to work with?" The room went silent. Dana had warned her that nobody spoke to Benjamin Thorne like that. His reputation preceded him, demanding cold, brilliant, and completely intolerant of mistakes. Employees whispered about his impossible standards and his ability to fire someone with a single glance. He repeated slowly, "I'm guessing you prefer exacting or precise or committed to excellence. But yes, I've heard the rumors. You make grown men cry, you've never smiled at a company party, and you once fired someone for bringing you the wrong kind of coffee. That last one isn't true. So you do smile at company parties?" "I don't attend company parties." He stood up and walked to the window, his back to her. "Why do you want this job, Miss Moreno?" "Honestly, I need the money. My mom's medical bills aren't going to pay themselves, and this job pays 3 times what I'm making now. But also, I'm good at what I do. I'm organized, I think fast, and I don't fall apart under pressure. Plus, I'm not easily intimidated." He turned to face her. "You should be intimidated." "Probably, but fear doesn't pay bills or solve problems. It just makes people freeze up and make mistakes." Benjamin walked back to his desk and picked up her stained resume. "Your interview was supposed to be 30 minutes. You've been here 5 minutes. I've already learned more about you than I did from the previous 3 candidates combined. Is that good or bad?" "I haven't decided yet." He set down the resume. "The position is temporary. 1-month trial period. If you survive, we'll discuss making it permanent. The hours are long, the work is demanding, and I don't accept excuses or mistakes." Rachel felt a surge of hope mixed with terror. "What time should I start?" "Tomorrow. 7 in the morning? Sharp? I'll be here at 6:55. Don't be early just to impress me. Be on time, because that's what the job requires." She nodded, trying to hide her smile. "Understood, Mr. Thorne." As she turned to leave, he called after her. "Miss Moreno." She looked back. "Fix your collar. There's a coffee stain." Rachel walked out of the office with her head high, even though her hands were shaking. Dana looked up from the reception desk with wide eyes. "You got the job?" 1-month trial, Rachel said. "How long do people usually bet I'll last?" "Most bets don't go past 2 weeks. Good to know. I'll aim for 2 weeks and 1 day just to mess up the office pool." That evening, the 30th floor buzzed with gossip. Greg Walsh, Benjamin's head of operations, leaned against the coffee machine talking to Nicole Rivera from marketing. "Did you hear he hired someone new?" Greg said. "Another sacrifice for the altar of impossible expectations?" Nicole replied, "How long do you give her?" "She showed up 20 minutes late and told him he was difficult to work with." Nicole's eyes widened. "And she's still alive?" "Not just alive. He hired her. Maybe he's finally lost it. 5 years of running this company with an iron fist, and he cracks over a woman who insults him in an interview." Inside his office, Benjamin sat alone, staring at the coffee-stained resume on his desk. Rachel Moreno was unlike anyone he'd interviewed in years. She was chaotic, blunt, and completely unpolished. She should have been the last person he'd hire. But there was something about the way she'd stood in his office. Disheveled and late and refused to cower. Something about how she'd looked him in the eye and told him the truth instead of what she thought he wanted to hear. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Darling, I found the perfect woman for you. Harvard Law, excellent family, beautiful. Dinner next week?" Benjamin deleted the message without responding. He'd been avoiding his mother's matchmaking attempts for 2 years now. Catherine Thorne believed in strategic marriages, perfect resumes, and maintaining appearances. She'd raised him to value success over everything else, including happiness. He looked back at Rachel's resume. Incomplete degree. No corporate experience. Coffee stains and honesty. His mother would hate her. For some reason, that made him smile. The next morning, Rachel arrived at 6:57 wearing a navy dress she'd borrowed from her roommate and shoes that pinched her toes. The office was already buzzing with activity, and Dana gave her a sympathetic look as she pointed toward Benjamin's office. "Conference room first," Dana corrected. "Monday morning briefings. Everyone attends. Don't be late." Rachel found the conference room filled with executives in expensive suits, all looking polished and professional. She slid into a seat near the back just as Benjamin entered. He didn't acknowledge her, didn't even glance in her direction. For the next hour, he ran through projections, deadlines, and expectations with the precision of a military general. People took notes frantically. Nobody asked questions. When the meeting ended, Benjamin finally looked at her. "Miss Moreno, my office." The other executives watched as she followed him, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and pity. Benjamin's office was exactly as she remembered. Pristine, cold, intimidating. He gestured to the desk outside his door, visible through the glass wall. "This is your workspace. Computer, phone, filing system. Everything is organized alphabetically and by priority. My calendar is on the shared system. I have meetings every hour, and I expect you to know the details of each one before I walk in. Rachel looked at the impossibly neat desk, then back at him. Any other requirements? Should I also read minds and predict the future? If you could, that would be helpful. Was that a joke? A statement of fact. The job requires anticipating problems before they occur, right? No pressure. Handed her a thick binder. Previous meeting notes, client files, ongoing projects. Read all of it by tomorrow. Rachel took the binder, which weighed about 5 pounds. All of it? Problem. Just calculating how many hours of sleep I can skip. Sleep is your concern, not mine. Results are what matter. For the first time, Rachel felt a flash of real irritation. Mr. Thorne, I understand you have high standards, but I'm human. I need to eat, sleep, and occasionally remember what sunlight looks like. The office went quiet. Through the glass wall, she could see several employees had stopped working to watch. Benjamin stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Miss Moreno, I don't expect perfection. I expect effort. If you're not willing to give this job everything you have, tell me now and save us both the time. Rachel met his gaze without flinching. I'll give you everything I have, but I won't pretend to be a robot. I'll make mistakes. I'll ask questions, and I'll tell you when something doesn't make sense. If you can't handle that, then maybe you should fire me now and save us both the trouble. The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled tight. Then Benjamin did something unexpected. He smiled. It was small, barely there, but it was real. Get to work, Miss Moreno. As he walked back into his office, Rachel let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Greg appeared beside her desk, looking impressed. Nobody talks to him like that. Maybe. Someone should have started years ago, Rachel replied, opening the massive binder. Greg grinned. I'm upgrading my bet. 3 weeks minimum. Rachel looked up at him. Make it 6 months. I'm not going anywhere. Rachel's first week at Thorne. Industries felt like being dropped into the deep end of an ocean, while everyone watched to see if she'd drown. Benjamin moved through his days with military precision, meetings at 8, calls at 9, contract reviews at 10. He expected her to know everything before he asked for it. And somehow, against all odds, she started to figure it out. By Wednesday, she'd memorized the names of 27 clients, learned which coffee shop Benjamin preferred, and discovered that he took exactly 17 minutes for lunch. Always alone in his office. You're doing better than expected, Greg told her during a rare break. Most people are crying in the bathroom by day 3. The week's not over yet, Rachel replied. Though privately she felt a small surge of pride. Thursday morning started normally until James Caldwell, Benjamin's business partner, stormed into the office at 7:30. His face was red, and he was clutching a folder like it had personally offended him. Where's Benjamin? He demanded. Good morning, Mr. Caldwell, Rachel said calmly. He's in a conference call until 8. Can I help you with something? I need to see him now. This is urgent. Rachel glanced at the folder in his hands. Is this about the Patterson contract? James stopped mid-stride. How did you know that? I reviewed all active contracts on Monday. Patterson's renewal deadline is tomorrow, and there's been radio silence from their legal team for 3 days. I'm guessing they've raised concerns? James stared at her like she'd just spoken ancient Greek. They're threatening to walk away from a $12 million deal because of Clause 17. Something about intellectual property rights that their lawyers suddenly decided is unacceptable. Rachel's mind raced. She'd read that contract twice, and she remembered something. The clause about collaborative developments? Yes, they want full ownership of any technology created during the partnership. Our legal team says it's a deal breaker. What if we're asking the wrong question? Rachel said slowly. What if instead of fighting over ownership, we propose a licensing agreement? They get exclusive rights for commercial applications. We retain ownership for research and development. Everyone wins. James opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. That's actually brilliant. Why didn't our legal team think of that? Because they're too busy fighting to notice the middle ground, Rachel said. Would you like me to draft a proposal? You can do that? I can try. If it's terrible, you can throw it away and pretend this conversation never happened. James looked at her with newfound respect. Do it. Have it on my desk by noon. After he left, Rachel realized her hands were shaking. She'd just volunteered to solve a $12 million problem with no legal training and 4 days of experience. She pulled up the contract on her computer and started working. At 11:45, she printed the proposal and walked it to James's office. He read it while she stood there, trying not to fidget. "This is good," he said finally. "Really good." "Where did you learn contract law?" "I didn't. I just read the document and asked myself what both sides actually needed instead of what they were demanding." James picked up his phone. "Benjamin, you need to see what your assistant just did." "No, seriously. Get down here." 3 minutes later, Benjamin appeared in James's office. His expression was neutral. But Rachel had learned to read the tiny signs. The slight tightening around his eyes meant he was curious, and the way he crossed his arms meant he was skeptical. James handed him the proposal. Rachel solved the Patterson problem. Benjamin read in silence. The room felt airless. When he finally looked up, his steel-gray eyes fixed on Rachel with an intensity that made her stomach flip. "This is exactly what we needed," he said quietly. "James, call Patterson's legal team. Set up a meeting for tomorrow morning." After James left to make the call, Benjamin turned to Rachel. "Walk with me." They went to the empty conference room, and he closed the door. For a moment, he just looked at her, and Rachel couldn't tell if she was about to be praised or fired. "You've been here for days," he said. "Yes. You have no legal training, correct? You just saved a $12 million contract that 3 lawyers with Harvard degrees couldn't fix." Rachel wasn't sure if that was a question. "I got lucky?" "Luck is being prepared when opportunity shows up. You prepared. You read contracts that weren't your responsibility, you understood the problem, and you found a solution." He paused. "Why? Why what? Why do you care this much?" "It's not your job to solve legal problems. You could have told James to wait, passed him off to someone else, stayed in your lane." Rachel considered lying, then decided against it. "Because I hate watching people fight over problems that have obvious solutions, and because I wanted to prove I deserved to be here." Something shifted in Benjamin's expression. "You don't need to prove anything, Miss Moreno. Your work speaks for itself." It was the closest thing to a compliment she'd heard from him, and it hit her harder than she expected. "Thank you, Mr. Thorne." "Benjamin," he said suddenly. "What? When we're alone, you can call me Benjamin. Mr. Thorne makes me sound like my father, and that's not a comparison I enjoy." Rachel smiled. "Okay, Benjamin." The way he looked at her when she said his name made something flutter in her chest. Then his phone buzzed, breaking the moment, and he was back to business. "The Patterson meeting is at 9 tomorrow. You're coming with me." "I am." "You created the solution. You should be there to present it." Fear and excitement warred in Rachel's stomach. "What if I mess it up?" "Then we'll fix it together. But you won't mess it up." He headed for the door, then paused. And Rachel. It was the first time he'd used her first name. "Yes. Good work today." After he left, Rachel sat down in one of the conference room chairs and let out a long breath. She'd been at Thorne Industries for 4 days and had already broken every expectation anyone had for her. The next morning, the Patterson meeting went better than Rachel could have hoped. Their legal team loved the licensing proposal, and by 10:30, they'd agreed to move forward. Benjamin led the meeting with his usual precision, but twice he deferred to Rachel for clarification, treating her like an equal partner rather than an assistant. When they returned to the office, Nicole Rivera from marketing intercepted them in the hallway. "Benjamin, I need 5 minutes. It's about the Meridian campaign." "What's wrong with it?" "Everything. The client hates our concept. The creative team is fighting with the analytics team, and we're 3 days from the pitch with nothing workable." Benjamin's jaw tightened. "Show me." They went to the marketing floor where chaos reigned. 2 designers were arguing over color schemes while someone else stressed ate donuts in the corner. Nicole pulled up the campaign on a large monitor. It was generic corporate messaging, stock photos of smiling professionals, buzzwords like synergy and innovation, the kind of thing that said nothing while using many words. "What's Meridian's actual product?" Rachel asked. Nicole looked surprised that she'd spoken. "It's an app that helps remote teams collaborate. Calendar sharing, task management, video calls, that sort of thing." "And who's the target audience?" "Primarily young professionals and small business owners." Rachel studied the campaign. "This looks like it's trying to sell insurance to retirees. Where's the energy? Where's the reality of what remote work actually feels like?" One of the designers, a man with purple hair, looked up. "That's what I've been saying. But analytics says the data shows professional imagery performs better." "Data from what demographic?" Rachel challenged. "Because I guarantee young professionals aren't responding to stock photos of people pretending to have meetings." Benjamin watched this exchange without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. "What would you suggest?" Nicole asked, sounding genuinely curious now. Rachel walked to the whiteboard and grabbed a marker. "Show the chaos. Show someone juggling 3 video calls while their cat walks across the keyboard. Show the reality of working from home, the messy desks, coffee stains, the moments where technology saves you from disaster. Make it real." Dumped. The purple-haired designer jumped up. "Yes, exactly. That's authentic." "Analytics will never approve that," someone muttered. "Then maybe analytics needs to remember that humans aren't data points," Rachel said. "People connect with truth, not perfection." Benjamin spoke for the first time. "Develop both concepts. Present them both to the client and let them choose. Nicole, you have until Monday." As they walked back to the executive floor, Benjamin was quiet. Rachel worried she'd overstepped, but when they reached her desk, he turned to her. "You have a gift for seeing what others miss. I'm just good at pointing out the obvious. It's the obvious that everyone else overlooks." He hesitated, then added, "I'm increasing your responsibilities. From now on, you're not just my assistant. You're a strategic consultant. When there's a problem that needs fresh perspective, I want you in the room." "Benjamin, I've been here less than a week. You've already proven you're more valuable than people who've been here 5 years. Are you going to argue with me or accept the promotion?" "There's a promotion and a raise. Greg will handle the paperwork." He started to walk away, but Rachel called after him. "Why are you doing this?" Benjamin turned back. "Because you're exactly what this company needs. You ask the right questions. You're not afraid to challenge assumptions, and you care about solving problems instead of protecting territory." His voice softened slightly. "And because I've spent 5 years surrounding myself with people who tell me what I want to hear, it's refreshing to have someone who tells me what I need to hear." That afternoon, the office buzzed with gossip about Rachel's rapid rise. Some people were impressed. Others were resentful. But everyone agreed on one thing. Something had changed in Benjamin Thorne. And Rachel Moreno was the catalyst. Greg stopped by her desk with paperwork. Strategic consultant. That's a title that usually takes people 3 years to reach. "I know it looks bad," Rachel said quietly. "Actually, it looks earned. I've watched you this week. You work harder than anyone else here. You solve problems nobody asked you to solve, and you made Benjamin smile. Do you know how rare that is?" He smiled. "Twice in 1 week. That's a record." That evening, Rachel was packing up to leave when Benjamin emerged from his office. "Do you have dinner plans?" She looked up, surprised. "I was going to eat leftover pasta and watch reality TV." "Why?" "I wanted to thank you for your work this week. Let me buy you dinner." Rachel's heart skipped. "Is this a work dinner or a dinner dinner? Does it matter?" "Yes, because if it's work, I'll take notes. If it's dinner, I'll actually enjoy the food." Benjamin smiled, that rare expression that transformed his entire face. "Dinner, dinner. No notes, no work talk. Just food. Okay, but I'm still in my work clothes, and I probably smell like stress and coffee. You look fine, and you smell like success." They went to a quiet Italian restaurant where Benjamin seemed to know the owner. Over pasta and wine, they talked about everything except work, Rachel's childhood in a small town, Benjamin's complicated relationship with his mother, their shared love of old movies, and complete inability to cook. I once burned water, Rachel admitted. I don't know how it's scientifically possible, but I did it. Benjamin laughed, a real laugh that made people at nearby tables turn to look. I once followed a recipe exactly and somehow created something that violated several laws of physics. We're disasters. The moment hung between them, charged with something neither wanted to name yet. Then Benjamin's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. My mother. She wants to have lunch tomorrow with me and some woman she's trying to set me up with. Sounds fun? It sounds like torture. Catherine Thorne believes in strategic partnerships, not actual relationships. Every woman she introduces me to is pre-approved. Right family, right education, right connections. Rachel took a sip of wine. What do you believe in? Benjamin looked at her for a long moment. I'm starting to figure that out. The tension between them was palpable now, but before either could say more, his phone buzzed again. This time he answered. Hello, Mother? Yes. I got your message. Actually, I can't make lunch tomorrow. I'm seeing someone. He paused, looking directly at Rachel. Her name is Rachel. Yes. Seriously. No. She's not from your social circle. That's exactly why I like her. Rachel's eyes went wide. What was he doing? You want to meet her? Tomorrow? Fine. We'll both come to lunch. He hung up and set down his phone. Did you just tell your mother we're dating? Rachel asked carefully. I need a favor. Rachel stared at Benjamin across the table, trying to process what had just happened. You told your mother we're dating? I panicked. You panicked. You, Benjamin Thorne, who faces down hostile corporate boards without blinking, panicked about your mother's matchmaking. He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its usual perfect styling. You don't know Catherine Thorne? She's relentless. Every week, it's another lunch with another suitable candidate. Women who see me as a business opportunity, not a person. I'm exhausted. Rachel should have been angry, but instead she felt something else. Sympathy. So you volunteered me as human shield. I'll pay you. You already pay me. I'll pay you more. Bonus. Hazard pay. Whatever you want, Benjamin. He leaned forward, and she could see genuine desperation in his eyes. Please, Rachel. One lunch. You meet my mother. We convince her I'm in a relationship, and she leaves me alone for at least a few months. That's all I'm asking. Rachel considered this. It was ridiculous. It was unprofessional. It was exactly the kind of chaotic situation she should avoid. What do I get out of it besides hazard pay? Name it. Control over my own projects. When I see a problem I can fix, I want the authority to fix it without asking permission every time. Benjamin didn't hesitate. Done. And you have to attend the next company party and actually talk to people like they're humans, not business assets. That's cruel. Those are my terms. He extended his hand across the table. Deal. Rachel shook it, and the contact sent electricity up her arm. They held on a moment longer than necessary before both pulling back. So, Rachel said, trying to sound businesslike, if we're fake dating, I need details. How did we meet? How long have we been together? What do I call you in front of your mother? We met at work. We've been seeing each other for about a month. And you call me Benjamin? He paused. What should I know about you that a boyfriend would know? The word boyfriend made Rachel's stomach flip. I'm allergic to shellfish. I hate horror movies, and I have a scar on my left knee from falling out of a tree when I was 10. I play piano but haven't touched one in years. I'm afraid of heights, but hide it well. And I haven't celebrated my birthday since I was 12. Rachel's heart squeezed. Why not? My mother turned every birthday into a performance. Formal parties with important people where I had to dress up and make conversation with adults who didn't care about me. After my father left, she stopped pretending they were for me at all. That's horrible. Benjamin shrugged, but she could see the old pain in his eyes. It's just another day now. When is it? Next week, Monday. Rachel filed that information away. Your mother sounds difficult. Difficult is generous. Catherine Thorne runs her life like a corporation. Efficient, strategic, emotionless. She raised me to be successful, not happy. And did it work? Benjamin looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I thought so. Until recently. The next day, Rachel spent an hour trying to figure out what to wear to lunch with Catherine Thorne. Everything in her closet looked either too casual or trying too hard. Finally, she settled on a simple gray dress and hoped for the best. Benjamin picked her up at noon, and they drove to an upscale restaurant where the menu didn't have prices, which Rachel took as a bad sign. Catherine Thorne was already seated at a corner table, looking like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Perfectly styled silver hair, designer suit, and an expression that could cut glass. Mother, Benjamin said, kissing her cheek. This is Rachel Moreno. Catherine's blue eyes swept over Rachel with the efficiency of a security scan. Miss Moreno. How interesting to finally meet you. Mrs. Thorne, it's a pleasure. Rachel shook her hand, which was cool, and briefly offered. They sat down, and Catherine immediately took control. Benjamin tells me you work together. How modern. I'm his strategic consultant, Rachel said. How did you two meet? She showed up late to a job interview and called me difficult, Benjamin said with a slight smile. Catherine's eyebrows rose. How charming. And your family, Miss Moreno? What do they do? Here it comes, Rachel thought. My mother is a nurse. My father left when I was young. See? And your education? I attended State University, but left to help with family responsibilities. Catherine's expression didn't change, but Rachel felt the judgment like a physical thing. So you didn't finish your degree? No, ma'am. I was too busy making sure my mother could afford her medication and keeping a roof over our heads. Benjamin's hand found Rachel's under the table, squeezing gently. The gesture surprised her. Resilient, Catherine said, though it didn't sound like a compliment. And what are your intentions regarding my son? Mother, Benjamin warned. I'm simply asking a question. Benjamin is a very eligible man. I want to ensure Miss Moreno understands what being with him entails. Rachel felt anger building in her chest. With all due respect, Mrs. Thorne, I'm not with Benjamin because of his eligibility. I'm with him because he's brilliant and funny and kind when he lets himself be. Because he works harder than anyone I know and cares more deeply than he shows. Those things matter more than connections or credentials. The table went silent. Catherine studied Rachel with new intensity. Funny. Nobody's ever called Benjamin funny before. That's because most people don't listen when he makes jokes. He has this dry humor that catches you off guard if you're paying attention. Benjamin squeezed her hand again, and when Rachel glanced at him, his eyes were warm. The lunch continued with Catherine asking probing questions about Rachel's job, her goals, her life. Rachel answered honestly, refusing to perform or pretend to be someone she wasn't. By the end, Catherine's expression had shifted from skeptical to thoughtful. Well, Catherine said as they prepared to leave, you're certainly not what I expected. Is that good or bad? Rachel asked. I haven't decided yet. Catherine turned to Benjamin. She's very different from anyone you've dated before. I know. She's direct. Almost rude. I prefer honest, Rachel said. Catherine actually smiled just a little. I can see why you like her, Benjamin. She doesn't let you hide behind that wall you've built. After Catherine left, Benjamin and Rachel sat in his car in the parking lot, both a little stunned. I think she liked you, Benjamin said. She called me almost rude. From her, that's a compliment. She respects people who stand their ground. Rachel laughed, feeling the tension drain out of her. That was terrifying. You're incredible. The way you defended me, what you said about why you're with me. He paused. Even though it's not real. Something in the way he said it made Rachel's heart clench. Right, not real. They sat in silence for a moment, and Rachel became acutely aware of how close they were in the car, how his hand was still holding hers. We should get back to the office, Benjamin said quietly. But he didn't move. Yeah, neither of them moved. Rachel, Benjamin started, then stopped. Thank you for doing this. It's fine. Part of my new strategic consultant duties, right? Fake girlfriend service. It didn't feel fake. Rachel's breath caught. Benjamin. Right. I know. This is complicated. You work for me. We have a professional relationship, and I just used you to lie to my mother. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Rachel turned to face him fully. I meant what I said in there. All of it. His eyes searched hers. Even though we're not actually together? Maybe that made it easier to say the truth. The air between them was charged with everything they weren't saying. Benjamin reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind Rachel's ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. I want to kiss you, he said softly. But I don't want to mess this up. What if we're already messed up? Then what's one more complication? He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. Rachel didn't. Their lips met softly at first, tentative, testing. Then something broke open between them, and the kiss deepened. Benjamin's hand moved to the back of her neck and Rachel gripped his shirt, pulling him closer when they finally broke apart. Both breathing hard, Benjamin rested his forehead against hers. We shouldn't have done that, he whispered. Probably. Not I'm your boss. It. Noticed this could complicate everything. It. Definitely will. Pulled back just enough to look at her. I don't want to stop. Me neither. Benjamin's phone buzzed insistently. He ignored it. It buzzed again. With a frustrated sigh, he checked it. It's James. Patterson contract just fell through. Their legal team found a new issue. Reality crashed back in. We need to go. They drove back to the office in charged silence, the kiss hanging between them like an unanswered question. When they arrived, chaos greeted them. James was in Benjamin's office with 3 lawyers, all talking at once about clauses and contingencies. The problem is Section 12. One lawyer said, Patterson wants complete indemnification for any patent disputes arising from collaborative work. Rachel looked at the contract they'd worked so hard on. What if we limit the indemnification to disputes that arise directly from our contributions? They're protected from our mistakes, but we're not liable for their entire business. The lawyers exchanged glances. That could work. Draft it, Benjamin ordered. Rachel, work with legal on the specific language. James, call Patterson and tell them we have a solution. For the next 4 hours, they worked. Rachel collaborated with the legal team, learning as she went, asking questions that made them rethink their assumptions. By 6 o'clock, they had new language that satisfied everyone. You're a natural at this, one of the lawyers told her. Have you considered law school? Rachel laughed. I barely finished 3 years of undergrad. You should consider it. You have the mind for it. After everyone left, Rachel found Benjamin still in his office, staring at the city lights. She knocked on the doorframe. It's late, she said. You should go home. I'm avoiding thinking about what happened earlier. Rachel stepped inside and closed the door. We kissed. We did. And it complicated everything. Yes. She walked to his desk and sat on the edge. So what do we do about it? Benjamin stood and moved closer to her. I don't know. The smart thing would be to pretend it never happened. Maintain professional boundaries. And the not smart thing? Admit that I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you walked into my office late and covered in coffee stains. Admit that you've changed everything about how I see this company, this job, my life. Admit that I want to kiss you again right now more than I've wanted anything in years. Rachel's heart was pounding. Those are some pretty serious admissions. I know. Should probably tell you that I feel the same way. That working with you has been the most exciting, challenging, terrifying experience of my life. That when you look at me, I feel seen in a way I never have before. Benjamin cupped her face in his hands. This is a terrible idea, the worst. We'll have to be careful. Professional at work. Completely professional. Starting tomorrow. Definitely tomorrow. He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. Rachel wrapped her arms around his neck, and Benjamin pulled her closer. The kiss was deep and hungry, full of everything they'd been holding in. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Rachel laughed. So much for professional boundaries. Tomorrow, Benjamin promised. Tomorrow, we'll figure out how to make this work. And tonight, let's just be 2 people who can't stop kissing each other. I can work with that. They stood in his office as the city lights twinkled below. Two people who'd found something unexpected in the middle of corporate chaos. It was complicated and risky, and probably a disaster waiting to happen. But as Benjamin kissed her again, Rachel decided that some disasters were worth diving into headfirst. The story was just beginning.